Yo, what is going on YouTube? GZTV back with another video, and we are here back with the MCU. We are finally here. We have the 2022 American superhero film based on Marvel Comics featuring the character Shuri / Black Panther. We have Black Panther Wakanda Forever. This is the sequel to the original film, and it takes place after all of the Avengers stuff. And I feel like Marvel would have found a way to move forward regardless, but I knew this was going to be difficult for them to do. Chadwick Boseman really was this franchise, really was the character of Black Panther. His presence, his charm, and his leadership defined Black Panther in a way that's impossible to replicate. It's still tragic that we lost him, by the way. R.I.P. to a legend. Put R.I.P. in the comments. I love Chadwick Boseman. He was great in these films and really was only known for these films, but he made the most out of that. I watched the first Black Panther movie a month or two ago, and I liked it quite a bit. You guys can go watch my review on that. Maybe not as much as some people, but it's a good movie for sure. At this point, I am somewhat burnt out on Marvel, as you guys can probably tell. We've watched like 20 to 25 Marvel films over the last couple of years, which probably hurt this one a bit for me, but I still wanted to see what they do next. It's another entry in the MCU, and even if I got a little bored here and there, it's still something I had to check out. So let's get into the video. We have a lot to talk about. So getting into the premise, just kind of basic stuff that happened. King T'Challa passes, as well as Chadwick Boseman in real life, so that's how they move forward. Wakanda finds itself without a protector, and with King Ramonda leading the nation, and it's nice that they didn't try to recast Chadwick Boseman's character, because my god, that would have pissed me off. However, Queen Ramonda faces international pressure and internal grief while trying to uphold her son's legacy and try to be this ruler. She has a lot to deal with. As global powers grow desperate to find and control vibranium, a new threat emerges. We have Namor, ruler of the underwater civilization of Talokan, whose people possess their own access to the rare metal, and they're like the next threat, the big bad, kind of the legion of people that they had to fight. And I love when the Marvel movies do legions rather than single villains. I think that's great. When their worlds collide, Shuri must confront her grief. Shuri is like the main one that has to take responsibility, her anger to become something greater. The new Black Panther, which is, spoiler alert, kind of what happens later in the film. Maybe you expected that, I don't know. I don't know if I really expected that, but it's cool. Along the way, we meet Riri Williams, a brilliant young engineer. I'm an engineer, who gets tangled in the Wakanda Talokan conflict, and we see Okoye, Nakia, and M'Baku step up to protect their home, kind of as they did in the original film and the Avengers. The film explores legacy, grief, and leadership in a post-T'Challa Wakanda, culminating in a final showdown between Shuri and Namor that forces both leaders to make a choice between vengeance and unity. So let's just get into the nitty-gritty now, and there you go. I don't know how long this video is going to be, but starting with the good, I do think the tribute to Chadwick Boseman was quite beautifully handled. I think the Silent Marvel intro and the way the movie uses grief, I didn't even really realize that at first until I was thinking about it in my notes, but the way they started with like showing like the murals of him on the Marvel sign in silence, I think that was beautiful. The way the movie uses grief as its emotional foundation worked really well, and again, this movie was for Chadwick Boseman. We all kind of know that, we can all kind of infer that, so that's great. And I think the decision to have T'Challa die off screen felt respectful and organic. Like if they would have put him on the screen dying, that would have been kind of fucked up. They did a lot of right things here, because they could have easily took this the wrong way, been controversial, and made some people pissed, including myself. There was, again, no cheap CGI replacement, no recasting, just pure acknowledgement that no one else could play that role, as all Marvel fans should probably know. Letitia Wright does a solid job kind of carrying this movie. She is kind of the next Chadwick Boseman. She is the next in line to kind of help carry the franchise, and obviously she's not as good as Chadwick Boseman, but Letitia Wright definitely deserves some flowers, definitely deserves some sort of nomination for something. I think she did great here. I don't know if she did. Obviously she's not perfect, she's not even close to Chadwick Boseman, but given the circumstances, she holds her own and gives Shuri a very strong arc, kind of one about growth, maturity, and stepping into leadership, very similar kind of to what Prince T'Challa, eventually King T'Challa, went through in the first film, so I think that's beautiful. I also really liked Riri Williams, who is Ironheart. She's smart, funny, and brings a fresh outsider energy that balances well with Wakanda's seriousness, again similar to like what an Agent Ross brought to the original film. And although Agent Ross is in this film kind of mingling with his ex-wife or whatever, I don't even really care to talk about him in the video, she is like what Agent Ross was in the original, but way smarter, so that was fun. Visually, the world building is still strong. I think this movie looks great. The visuals hit the points it needs. Wakanda looks as stunning as ever, honestly better than the original. I think this was better shot than the original, and the Talokan sequences are visually rich, even if they reminded me kind of like of Avatar. And I don't want to keep making comparisons to other things, but dude, it's literally blue people that are coming out of the water, surfing, flying in the fucking air, and they have these dolphins and shit. It's literally like aquatic Avatar, which is is kind of funny, and obviously I loved the original. I didn't like the fucking sequel, by the way. You guys can go watch my review on that. I fucking shitted on it, but there you go. Getting into the action, I think just overall the spectacle of this movie was pretty good. You can put it in the positive. And the battles between Wakanda and Talokan have pretty good weight to them. Like, you know, it's crumbling down, and this is going to be kind of the end of things, because the Talokan actually feel like the ultimate threat. They kind of feel like the Thanos because of how like unbeatable they are of the Black Panther's corner here. Thematically, it's a nice continuation of the ideas from the first film. Again, it's about legacy, kind of how people cope with loss. There's a lot of characters that die in these films, and I can really appreciate the dramatics of it. Obviously, you don't ever want to see characters go, but adding like the dramatics and adding the cinematics of that is great. How power is passed down, legacy, generations. I think that's what this movie and the other movie strives on. You feel that emotional current even when the movie slows down. There's a lot of good about this. But I will say this movie's not going to get a great rating, because getting into the bad, I think this movie dragged a ton. This was one of the most boring movies to watch in the entire MCU. At nearly 2 hours and 40 minutes, it feels long and not in a good way. Pause. The pacing just collapses towards the end. Like, you get way too much shit. They try to go for way too many things, and by the time the final fight rolls around, I was half asleep. Like, I was genuinely falling asleep watching the third act. I missed like probably 10 minutes of the third act because of that. There's no reason for this to be that long. The story isn't complex enough to justify it, and again, you don't even have your flagship actor, your major piece in there, Chadwick Boseman. So why are you making a film without Chadwick Boseman damn near 3 hours long? That did not make sense. Again, it isn't complex. It's a very formulaic, very like, okay, here's a big bad, we need to band together and fight him off. Like, obviously we're griefing in the background, but we all know what the main storyline is: beating the bad. Queen Ramonda's writing was frustrating. I didn't really like Queen Ramonda in general, and I like Angela Bassett as an actress. She's very talented, but her decision to like strip Okoye of her general title was completely unfair and made her seem irrational, especially because she just sits in her fucking lair or whatever and doesn't do shit while they're fighting. She spends most of the movie scolding people rather than leading them, so her death doesn't hit as hard as the movie wants it to, and if anything, I was kind of happy she got out of the way so Shuri could kind of take over as ruler. And I'm sure that like it was intentionally done why they did that, but still. Queen Ramonda, not my favorite. Honestly, Namor, however you fucking say it, Neymar, the soccer player, I don't even know. While he's a cool looking character visually, and again, a lot of the visuals and the aesthetics and like the Mayan culture and the kind of African culture being brought in here was great, it didn't land for me as a villain. Not even close to as good of a villain as Killmonger, and I wasn't even super high on Killmonger, although I love Michael B. Jordan. His motives felt shaky. Something about protecting his people in vibranium, but like, who fucking cares? Like, he didn't have a super cool lore. Like, they tried to explain the lore and stuff, and it just did nothing for me. And his design, like the little wings on his ankles, look extremely goofy. The Talokan civilization looks amazing, but feels hollow in purpose. I don't know. And the humor is your typical Marvel humor. I don't even really think I should put this in the bad. It's just kind of whatever. Like, it's always been whatever to me. It's not terrible. It's just very NPC level, and they include some of it here. They try to make light of like the tragedy, which is fine. I think that's like appropriate to do, and it doesn't break the movie's tone. I think it's used appropriately, unlike, you know, the Guardians of the Galaxy, but it definitely softens moments that should have hit harder emotionally at times. The soundtrack too. I'm not a big like nitpicky guy about soundtrack. Like, obviously I'm a music guy, you know it, but it was a massive downgrade from the first film. Kendrick Lamar's work on 2018's Black Panther was legendary. Here we get Burna Boy, some international flavor, and one Rihanna song at the end. That's it. Like, come the fuck on, man. The emotional beats are there, but unevenly delivered. The Queen's death again doesn't have impact. The post-credit scene with Prince T'Challa is nice, but a little too late given like how much filler they added at the end, and the overall pacing makes everything feel longer than it should. Again, this is just a prolonged movie when it shouldn't have to be, and you already have the obstacle of making a movie without Chadwick, so why are we bloating the fuck out of this? I don't know. So getting into the okay, like, this is one of those movies where a lot of things are just fine. Not great, not bad, just kind of there. Again, the visuals are solid. I think they're good. The tone is steady, the tone is fine, and the performances are all serviceable, but nothing stands out like the first film did. Nothing makes this better than the first film, except, again, maybe the visuals. I think that's literally it, and some of like the aesthetics were cooler, I guess. I don't know. The tone walks a line between tribute and spectacle, which is whatever. I actually respect that they made this more of like a celebration of T'Challa's legacy rather than a dark mourning film, and I could have put that in the good. That was pretty fun. It's hopeful and dignified. It's not like sad, boo-hoo, woe is me. Like, obviously the death of Chadwick Boseman is very sad, but it definitely fits like the Wakandan spirit, and it's what like people of that culture would want. You know, you see people dancing around as they're carrying his casket. I love that. I feel like there needs to be more joy in this world too. So like to celebrate someone and like the legacy they left after the passing, I think that was really cool because that it never fully dives into the grief the way it could have. There's definitely trade-offs to it. Like it definitely didn't feel too much like a grieving film. You didn't really acknowledge it as that, but still there's great parts to it as well. The world building expands but doesn't necessarily evolve. It looks great but it doesn't evolve anything. Wakanda remains beautiful, and Talokan is an interesting idea, but it never reaches the same level of intrigue as the kind of political and cultural conflict in the original film. And they tried to go for like political and weird shit with like the United Nations and all that stuff, trying to get on them, maybe for their race. I don't know. That didn't land. Everything looks good but feels safe. It's well made and competent. Like you can tell it was high budgeted and they have great creators behind this thing, but it's not a super memorable film. I would probably never watch this again. Not only because it is damn near 3 hours, but because it's just not really a necessary film in this franchise. You can tell everyone cared about making a respectful sequel though, but it doesn't leave much of a lasting impression outside of being the one where Shuri becomes Black Panther. Like sure, that's an amazing plot line and that's like the perfect plot line for them to go after, but it just doesn't really feel crazy to me. Some people like this better than the original, which makes no sense, but let's get into the review. So getting into the review, pull up the tier list. I would say this is a solid sequel. It's an admirable tribute, but not one that really needed to exist. I think maybe if they made like an hour-long like tribute, or maybe like a mini series about what happens after Chadwick Boseman's character dies, maybe that would have been a little more fitting. I'm calling it a 3-hour movie because that's what it felt like. This thing was a fucking drag. I watched this in like 4 or 5 sessions. I could not sit and watch through the whole thing. It's a movie that means well, carries emotional weight, and gives Letitia Wright a chance to shine as an actress, which is amazing, but it drags on, reuses ideas, and never finds the same rhythm or spark that made the original so damn good. It doesn't have that flair to it. It doesn't have the culture. It doesn't even have the cast to it. Like Michael B. Jordan made some appearances. You don't have him. You don't have Chadwick. You don't even have, what's his name, the guy from Get Out. He's not even in there. Winston Duke's in there, but the other guy isn't. I can't remember his name. It's like Daniel Kaluuya, I think it is. The acting is strong, the visuals are solid, and the themes of grief and legacy are heartfelt, but the pacing, weaker villain, and a lack of that fresh creative energy keep it from soaring, which is why I am giving it a 6.7 out of 10. I don't remember where on the tier list that shows, but 6.7. This is a heartfelt tribute that honors its hero, but struggles to stand tall beside its predecessor. It is not even close in quality of that film. I think I gave that film somewhere in the 8s. I really enjoyed it. Beautifully made, but too long and too restrained for its own good. So that's perfect. With that being said, it has been your boy GZTV. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, go check out the socials, do all that stuff. Up next, the last movie kind of in like this little phase before we get into the super new like 2023, 2024, 2025 films. We have Doctor Strange Into the Multiverse of Madness, I think what it's called, and that movie's like a half hour shorter, which is going to be great. So I'm out, guys. Peace.